Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dad's Expensive Hobby.
What's up?
Well, Storm Arena gave us an early Valentine's gift in the form of the Chun-Li pre-order. It seems like we have been waiting forever and a day to get it, and it's finally here. I want to say that it kind of feels like it was out of the blue, and it kind of was, but not all at the same time, since we've all literally been looking at the clock, waiting for her to go up on pre-order, and now that she's here, I guess we can't complain. It does seem like it was almost a calendar year ago that we got, those teaser images of her, and since then she's looked done. Maybe they had some, Storm had some little tweaks they needed to do here and there. It doesn't really matter at this point because now she's available to pick up. I know BBTS has her. I'm sure Image Anime will have her, and those are really the only two places that I would go through for these. There may be more if you know about them. Share that info down in the comments for us. But anyways, let's take a look at her because she looks pretty good. Initially, from images that I had seen of her, I was concerned that her legs and hips were going to be a little too small. The classic look when we think of Chun-Li is those crazy big thighs and wider hips and stuff and big bubble butt. But the more I kind of did some research, I guess you would say, I'm not a connoisseur of different versions of Chun-Li, but I looked into what she's supposed to look like on Alpha 3, and this looks pretty spot on. Now, granted, there's variation from illustration to illustration of her as far as how big or muscular the legs are, but this looks pretty solid, pretty standard, and I think they've done a pretty darn good job. I know I've heard some people say the arms maybe look too long. I don't really see that. Because these arms, at least on this version, she's going to have a little bit more of a muscular, athletic look, the big delts and stuff. The joints of the elbows are kind of pronounced on her, at least in the antecubital space where like the pit of your arm or your elbow is. That looks a little pronounced. It's not going to bother me. It might bother some people, but I think it looks good. And I've heard other people talk about her head is like too small. Again, I'm not really seeing that, but maybe it's just her capped shoulders are kind of making her look that way, but we'll know more once we actually have it in hand. But I think she looks pretty good. In comparison, I've heard people compare this to that Cocaine Studios, the Chun-Li, which I have that figure. I love it. Check out my video on it. She is definitely a different interpretation or representation of this figure. It's obviously it's meant to have the same outfit and be from the same game, but that Chun-Li, her thighs and hips are definitely much more pronounced, and I guess it's going to be kind of a pick your poison. You can't really compare the two as far as a solid like dollar for dollar comparison because they're just two different studios that made them, and we all know that Storm Arena has really been giving us the bang for our buck as far as what you get with the figure. And speaking of that, she's coming with the typical Storm Arena release as far as accessories are concerned. She's getting two different heads, and they both look pretty good as far as I can tell. She's getting the kick energy effect, it looks good, and she's coming with 6 hands and of course the stand. I think that's a pretty good spread, specifically for $30. You really can't beat that with a stick. Now, I've heard some other reviewers, just from today alone, starting to make predictions. I am not Nostradamus. I'm not going to be making any predictions. Usually my predictions don't necessarily come true. But yeah, we'll probably most likely see her at some Comic-Con this year or some other kind of fan event, probably be available there even before, Q3 when she generally releases. And we'll also probably see a event exclusive of some kind of color variation, or maybe even the standard Chun-Li in the dress at some point this year. I don't know. I can't remember 3 minutes ago whether or not I mentioned, but this is going to be a Q3 release. At least that's what it says on Big Bad Toy Store. But we know Big Bad Toy Store speak is always a month or two, if not an entire quarter behind. But I do feel like we will get this figure by the end of 2026. I don't think this one will end up rolling over into 2027 unless there's some sort of international problem. But overall, I just wanted to make this kind of a a quick video, but I think she looks pretty darn good. I'm impressed, and I'm looking forward to it. Her articulation looks incredible. But anyways, be sure and subscribe if you are not. I am chasing 2,000 subscribers. That's more of a vanity metric than anything. I'd rather you click on the video and watch it and give us a like and a comment. But anyway, this has been Dad with Dad's Expensive Hobby, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.